So hi, my name is Cujo. Are you feeling burnt out? Are you feeling tired of the culture lately? Are you tired of opening Instagram or TikTok or YouTube and seeing short form content left and right and weird AI videos being uploaded every 2 hours, if that every minute of the hour, every second of the minute, every millisecond of the second? Well, this is how I've been feeling lately. I've been feeling pretty burnt out with content creation, social media. Not that I've really been burnt out with making stuff. I've loved making all forms of content and shorts and things like that. But I've definitely fallen into pitfalls where I feel like I need to perform to an algorithm or an audience that sits here and watches me on YouTube. And I've fallen into the numbers trap here and there and been oh, this is something that I need to make sure I get to do this and do this stuff and make sure I'm consistent. Overall, lately, I've just been trying to have fun with it, and that has served me way more. And I'm bringing this style of content back because I just really enjoy just sitting in the mic, playing a game, and just putting the commentary over the video. But I read a book called The Burnout Society by byung-chul, and I've went through my life, several years of my life, thinking I can just pull myself up, I can grind myself to a T and bury myself in work so I don't have to face the negative side of life and make everything good. And if I just try my best, I won't have to suffer even if things get bad. I just know that I did my best. But byung-chul in The Burnout Society has really made me think otherwise, because he's exposed the culture that we live in quite a bit, called me out almost to a T. And anyone who uses social media or is a politician or has a career in sales or anything in a capitalist society, I feel this book kind of captures this hustle culture that we keep propagating as a species, particularly in the late stage capitalism that we end up being in. Byung-chul essentially talks about how instead of having people who say we ought to do something or should do something, pretty much slave owners, and we're the slaves to these people, that we ourselves have become our slave owners and the slave. The reason for this being is because the bourgeoisie found it to be more efficient to actually program into people that they are capable and can do stuff instead of you should be doing this stuff to serve your community. Way more beneficial because people can actually fully optimize their productivity for the society they live in instead of dragging their feet along. There's no better way to do this than to say, yes, your dreams are achievable. If you just work hard enough, you're able to achieve your dreams. And if you're not achieving your dreams right now, but you're putting everything you got and all the effort that you have into it, you just need to work harder and you need to find different ways to do it. And this is something that I've operated on for years. I thought if I just worked hard enough at a lot of different stuff that eventually it would work out for me. But I agree with Han on a lot of this stuff because I've done a lot of creative stuff, and I've worked at a job and making all sorts of different artwork and music and content, whatever you want to call all of anything that I put out there. And a lot of the times I fell into pitfalls of reaching a quota that I set for myself, being the master to myself, and also being the slave to the master, cracking the whip, making sure I hit that quota that I set for myself. And the reason that was propagated was because, yes, I could achieve it if I just worked hard enough. But everyone is operating with this mindset, and we're all obsessed with our own individual goals, and we're not seeing each other. And that's exactly what the bourgeoisie would want, because essentially they get all the production out of you without giving you the reward of the production. Most of us, probably young adults, have fallen victim to this, and it's such a hard thing to avoid because it's programmed into us since birth. And it's the people are the generation before us thought this way, that oh yeah, if we just work hard enough we can achieve things, when we're actually entering an age where I question that on the daily. I don't necessarily know if it's something that you can achieve if you just work and work and work. So I've found that what Han says in The Burnout Society to be true, that ultimately his message is to move more slowly and to move more lazily and actually just enjoy the time making the stuff that you end up making, no matter how long it takes. And he encourages it, the slower the better, and to take more leisure time and to work the least amount possible. Something as a super industrialized, late capitalist society that we need to accept as individuals, as people, is we are human beings and that we actually have limits to what we're capable of. But the culture doesn't want you to think about that. They want you to think if you just push hard enough, you could achieve anything that you set your heart on. You just got to lose sleep over it. You got to dedicate all waking hours to achieving these things. And the person that was willing to not take breaks and work more hours than you deserves it because they worked a lot harder at getting this thing. So therefore you should work harder. And I don't know. I've heard stuff like this and I've believed it in the past. And I found myself burnt out, like completely spent on trying to keep up with the Joneses and trying to actually like, oh, if this person's over here is working this hard, I can work just as hard, if not more than this person. And there's just too much now because of it. There's too much like going on in the world to like, for any of it to have any like weight or impact. I'm included in this. I upload like so much and I make so much different stuff. Ultimately, like people are just overwhelmed by the amount that everybody's making all the time. It's just better to, I think, enjoy that time. And when you feel like you have something important to say or something important to make is when you should sit down and make said things. A thing that really hurts me as a civilian inside of America is when I go around and a lot of the people in my life are really glued to their phone. And I walk around with headphones like nearly all the time. I'm a part of this. I try to listen to a lot of audiobooks in a lot of the time. But the reason for that being is because I think I'm cynical in a lot of my relationships. And for the most part, I think maybe a dark side or a shadow side of me is if the person I'm talking to doesn't have anything to offer me in terms of like what I'm interested in or in my goals, I tune them out or I shut myself off from them because I think subconsciously I'm saying that there's no point to this relationship existing. And I think that's something that I would like to accept about myself. Like I say, I don't want to waste time, but ultimately like I shut myself off to a lot of the world because of that. But anyway, to move on to why I'm bringing this up, since most of us are glued to our phones or like headphones and aren't really tuned into the world around us, Han points out in the Burnout Society that ultimately the thing that would fix the problem with this society is our attitude and response to boredom. And when boredom comes up, most of us don't even give the space for boredom anymore. Like we're constantly glued to this phone. Like you watching this video right now, you probably have watched 2 videos before this or have listened to a podcast or an audiobook. And you're trying to like fill the time in your day to where there's no time for you to just sit there and like be and not have anything going on or anything that you want to do. So instead of just trying to like move on to the next thing as quick as possible, we lean into that space and time where there's boredom. We lean in and we don't just jump to the next thing. Han talks about the difference between someone speed walking to try to get to the next thing or walking a bit slower and then dancing alongside that walk to actually enjoy that interperiod time that they have. The best like artistic inspiration that I found and ideas that I've had for artwork and projects I've been working on is when I don't have anything playing. Maybe I'll have my phone on me, but I'm not looking at my phone and I use the phone purely to just write in a notepad the ideas that come up. Ideas only come when you're in an idle time. This is why people get things like shower thoughts and stuff, is because at that point in time in the shower, like you're not really looking at anything and you're doing a somewhat monotonous task. So therefore boredom rises a bit more naturally when you're in that setting, and people get like the greatest ideas because they actually had the time to be bored in the shower for like 15-20 minutes. I get this sense that a lot of us are hyperactive because we don't want to face death, to put it bluntly. A lot of us don't like the idea of our time being meaningless or our time being wasted, because then we have to face the fact that ultimately death is going to take all this away. And what if it really was for nothing? Like you can get really existential about all of it. I think there's a lot of like facing death that needs to be done for this to be a thing that's fixed and accepted in our society. Like we're so blind as a nation because we're so busy all the time. There's no way to actually make accurate judgments or make perceptions or insights while you're active. It's when you're in a state of contemplation, which requires idleness, for you to make perceptions and then act based off of those perceptions. But we're so active as a nation all the time, we don't even like see what's going on around us, and we're so tuned into our own worlds that we're so disconnected from each other. It makes me think of Death Stranding. Kojima, he's called this stuff out like years and years before it all happens, but Death Stranding really just like puts it at the forefront, where most people are just completely disconnected but connected through like the internet. But in my day-to-day life, like, I'm part of the problem. I don't really like talk to people throughout my day for the most part, and like right now I'm like ranting to a microphone. I mean, I guess my girlfriend might be listening in the background. Oh, okay, she is. But I just yap to my microphone. I don't really talk to people throughout my day. And I understand it's my fault. And in the same turn, it's the society around me. It's a dance between the two. And I'm hoping in making this video and talking about this, we're going to get to burnout a bit in the future. And like why you get burnt out with this. Hopefully it makes sense why. Because all this work is kind of for nothing for everybody. But in hoping this, I hope it at least helps a few people out there. And it's something I can come back and listen to and really make an effort to try to talk to people throughout my day and communicate with my friends more, and quit making stuff to just put out into the void of the internet for people to just kind of gloss over. Like, I really want to connect with people, and that's what got me into YouTube in the first place, and streaming and making music, making videos, posting on social media, writing, all these different stuff, all these different things I got into is simply because I wanted to express a feeling that was emerging for me, and hoping that it resonated with people and I could connect and communicate with people more. It just feels hard lately. And when I read this book, I really read this book at a time where like I'd been really feeling burnt out. Han has completely made me think of things differently. Like, I'm actually really gonna work a lot less and work way less hard towards my dreams. Not necessarily give up on my dreams, but not have this sense of like grasping for them. I could give a damn if I actualize my dreams. It's like not what is important. I think what's important is that I enjoy my time in pursuing those. I think most of us, because we're so tuned into like news and social media and given so much information, overloaded with information all the time, is we don't have like the emotional or mental bandwidth for each other. Therefore, we end up just being really apathetic in our interactions with each other. At least that's how it feels like. Like, I'm very apathetic and like non-emotionally reactive with the people in my life. And I think other people are kind of the same way with me. It just kind of like feels like when I'm at work or just in my day-to-day, like we're all just kind of here. I just want to get done with this, bro, so I can go and like play some Fortnite on my Xbox One back at home or some shit. go grind some Warhammer Space Marine 2 with the homeboys back at the crib that I paid $90 for. Talk some shit with him for like an hour and a half, go to sleep, and then go to work. To waste 9 hours of my life away just like plugged into some social media. I'm part of the problem. I want to make that clear. I do this. I want to stop doing it, and I want people around me to like care about philosophy and literature and art and music and things that actually make life worth living. Ultimately, I think our society is tired. At least I'm feeling this as like a part of the proletariat. Like, I feel really tired, but I think the tiredness almost has a melancholiness to it. Han talks about how tired people are like the most still and the most open. Tiredness has this openness and softness that people end up becoming drawn to. And I think that when we're tired and we're open and slow living, we're just open to a lot more in our lives, a lot more approachable. And the way that we combat this culture that's come up is we just do a lot less. And even in terms of video games, like this video game footage that I'm using right now, like not playing a video game, just putting the fucking controller down, putting the PC mouse down, and going out and just sitting on a bench for like a while and just being with yourself. It's like time that we don't get. And if you look at us like 200, 300 years ago, that's literally most, if not all we had, was just a ton of time to just spend with ourselves. I just don't think evolutionarily, like, as people, we were made to do this. because of how connected we've become with social media and how much we look at our phone and how easily people have access to us because of how much we look at our phone, the barrier between ourselves and others starts to weaken and lessen. And we start to bleed each other into like this weird abstract digital world where we're sending each other reels, we're messaging each other instantly, and we're also expecting responses instantly. Because we're so connected all the time and we have no time with ourselves, whenever we do anything, it's usually to keep up with the Joneses or to try to make sure that you're connected with the people that are messaging you on your phone and that they don't feel like you're rejecting them or anything. And we're just like trying to maintain all the time. You don't feel like you accomplish anything because of this, is my point. Like you're always doing the bare minimum, like responding to people and doing this quota, doing that quota that you set for yourself, and messaging this person because it's required to like for you to put dinner on the table. But it's just a lot of like noise. In my personal feeling on this is like a lot of the work that I do in my day-to-day feels meaningless because of this. Like most people I think are doing it to put dinner on the table, but a lot of the work is just like menial labor that is required from the society that we live in. But because we're so connected and the self and the other is blends together so much, we just can't say no, because it's like we're saying no to ourselves because of that barrier, and we don't know ourselves. So if we say no to that, we're having to face literal death if we say no to another person. And when I look at people who try to just like make money and make more money or gain power and status, ultimately I feel like all sense to govern or have power is an attempt to control death. But you're trying to control the uncontrollable. Like when death emerges, you disappear, and when you appear, death disappears. And trying to avoid death is like a pointless task because it's gonna come for all of us. I mean, you can do things to prolong it, but ultimately, like, we need direction in the life and a mission statement for ourselves to see what we end up doing. Most of us are depressed because we lack direction with what we're doing, because we're just trying to keep up with the bare minimum of the people that message us on our phone, or like what's going on social media, or oh, what drama is Critical reporting on, or Ludwig talking about today. God, I'm gonna piss people off with that. But if you let people have access to you all the time, it is inevitable to lose direction because the other starts to bleed into the self. You need to give the self solitude to figure out what your main purpose is. Ultimately, to tie it all together, hopefully this helps a person with burnout. Might sound like a broken record. I really love The Burnout Society by byung-chul. Because we rule ourselves, we're the master, slave driver, and the slave, both in the same being. We don't have a god to aspire to. As Nietzsche would say, God is dead. So what do we replace him with? Well, as a society obsessed with production and achievement, our new god becomes health and taking care of our health. If this is the thing that is important to us, is achieving in society, we have nothing except the material to look at. So of course, we're going to care about the aesthetic and being in good health. That's all we have to look at. There's not a reason for us, though, to keep good health. So therefore, we become obsessed with being in the gym for 3-4 hours, pumping iron, taking videos of ourselves to put on Instagram. And for what? Like, you have a nice physique, but ultimately, like, what is it that you do with that physique? And like most of the time, it's just to like get people to envy you on social media because you were able to spend that time lifting in the gym. And I'm not bagging people with like nice physiques. Ultimately, I think they should be asking themselves, what's the purpose of it? Like, ultimately, what's the end goal? And I think sometimes I'll lose that, but I have to ask myself, in making like art or content or working out or anything that I do, ultimately, what's the end goal of me doing this? What's the point of me doing this? There has to be something higher that I'm aspiring to, which Nietzsche would call being like the Ubermensch and trying to seek a higher-ness of being human. But the achievement society needs to be obsessed with health because the two kind of coincide. Like, you need good health to actually achieve, and to achieve you need good health. But these are all material things, and there's a lot of spiritual absence in that. And Han ends the book in a way that gives me chills. He said something along the lines of We become too clinging to life to live. We become the living undead. We are already dead living this way. And it actually makes me really emotional to read that, because I see like so much like human beauty in art and in the relationships I have, but we continually let that be skewed from us. And instead we care about like a car or a house or a job title, which it's something that most people are trying to do for survival anyway. It's like not what most of us care about. I've heard pirate software say something along the lines of other countries actually saying what their hobbies and interests are instead of what their job is or what they're doing for work when they introduce themselves to people, because ultimately like most of us are doing work to just survive, and in our meantime our hobbies and our interests and the things we do with our spare time are actually what make up a bulk of who we are. I think I just am really grieving society in that regard, because like the living undead, I think in my day-to-day just interacting with the people around me is really what it feels like. It's just people going through the motions and just waiting to get home. And I hope I'm not the only one that feels like this out there. I think this is the burnout speaking, and hopefully some of it makes sense. Hopefully the burnout articulates itself in that. I'm gonna really make an effort to try to get direction with my art and not push myself to like have stuff ready or to like find success. And I've talked to myself about this before. I've told myself this. I just want to enjoy my time here, I think. And I want to connect with the people in my life. I think I'm going to make more of an effort to do that. I'm bringing back these kind of videos because I kind of just like riffing to a mic. And that's originally like a big proponent of why this channel started. Was I just wanted like no camera, just some gameplay, me riffing my mic, and just get thoughts that I had raw in the moment. If you feel burnt out, feel free to reach out to me and talk to me. Message me on anything that you can find me on. I know it kind of defeats the purpose because I'm like, message me and engage with me on social media, but I'll try to do the best that I can to respond. But really, like, I encourage you, like, maybe just look at someone and say hi, like, genuinely, or compliment someone genuinely today, and try to connect with your environment and be inside your life instead of wanting to be outside of it and in an abstract digital version of it. So if you watch this point, thank you very much for watching. I hope you know that I do love you very much. I'd appreciate it if you check out my other stuff. Thank you, and goodbye now.